Welcome to LBM Flash Moments with Phil Fornaro.
All right, hello everyone. This is Phil Fornaro. This is LBM Flash Moments, and we just had the one of the warmest days on record here in Chicagoland in the middle of March. Very odd, and then a huge hail and storm last night that swept the Midwest. So weird day coming in. Everything seems calm, relaxed. No one's here yet. Gonna make a podcast today about uh, if I'm losing my mind a little bit because of the fact that I am spending so much time with artificial intelligence, with AI, and about everything, both personal and business. So it's kind of funny is that I started absorbing some of this and started understanding ChatGPT. It was back like November of, I don't know, 2024 when someone said at the Wobie conference. I've talked about that a bunch of times in New York City. I haven't been for a couple of years. But that's for a different podcast, is why I haven't been there. And it sort of actually correlates to what we're doing here at Lightbulb Moments. Anyway, the idea here is that we have to go ahead and understand. Oh, I'm sorry, the Wobie conference. So the Wobie, when someone said at the Wobie conference, said, just once a day, learn something new on AI. At the time, I said, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know too much about AI. Is it really getting to be where it's supposed to be? And then shortly thereafter, it accelerated at such a level that I couldn't even believe it. Then I sort of got swept up in it. But actually, before I get into this, because this is a really fun one for me, I think I'm going to really enjoy bantering about my weekend experiences with AI and my nighttime experiences. First, I want to talk about the Spark line. So we just started the Spark line, and if you go to our website, it'll be in all the show notes, etc. But it's kind of fun. And thank you, Steve Fretzen, and thank you, Vera Gravilovich, for jumping in on our test case study. And I'm going to bring them up on a special episode talking about what they said. But basically, all the Spark line is just the ability for you to go onto our website, click, and leave a 60-second comment. It could be something about light bulb moments. It could be random thoughts. It could be ideas on a guest. It could be things that you want me to read on the air. We got to obviously use some level of decorum on what it says, but we'll have to see what they say. And the idea here is to embrace our bright community into light bulb moments even more than they are. So right now, I know everyone's sort of interacting as a result of some of the things that we're doing here and contacting guests and interacting with guests and so forth. But what I want to do now is I want you to be an active participant. I think it's time that you call in and approach us and give. We're given a lot of data, given a lot of ideas, a lot of perspective shifts, and we're given a lot of energy. So we would love to hear what you have to say, because guess what? I mean, just because I'm talking doesn't mean that I have all the best ideas. Our guests are coming up with great concepts, absorbing into this, but now it's time for you to do it. You don't have to do it. Continue to listen, enjoy, absorb, be a fly on the wall, so to speak. But every once in a while, do it. And if you're nervous about it, call me beforehand or email me. But the Sparkland, and you don't need an app, you don't need anything. All you do is click a button, and next thing you're talking. And we're going to enjoy that. So I can't wait for that bonus episode. We'll get even more deep into that. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. So what I found in my life is that I'm an insatiable learner. I want to learn constantly. So what's been part of my the difficulty is I don't know which source to go to. Before, when we were really young, we went to dictionaries and encyclopedias, tried to check out books from libraries. Then the internet came, and there's just so much content, and you don't know, and it's all sort of developed for the purposes of getting on page one. And so then you don't know if the content on page one is really the most valid content, or just the one where the person or the marketing team that developed it was just better than everyone else. Maybe the content's no good. So now AI sort of comes in, and it gives you this ability to become a very insatiable learner, because not only does it give you information, it interacts with you, it gives you clarifying questions, which I love. Clarifying questions, because it challenges you to ask the questions before it gives you the next iteration of what you're talking about. So I've been spending so much time on it, and it's actually was a little disturbing. It's funny. I remember Steph Shadroff saying, we want to get rid of, some of this screen time and these phones and being away. And I appreciate that. I did that for a long time after I heard her episode here, and What happened though is that I find that I'm okay with stressing my brain out because I don't feel stressed. And I know we talk a ton about Zone of Genius, Gay Hendricks. I got to get Gay on the podcast. I know he's big in the world here, but we're getting some big guests here now. So hopefully I can get him because I talk so much about him and what he talks about. But the Zone of Genius is that I sat, my wife left to go somewhere, came back 6 hours later, and I was still working on AI, and I didn't feel tired, I didn't feel annoyed. I felt actually invigorated because I was learning on how to do things. And the interesting thing now is, I know I've mentioned this before, but it's getting even more prevalent. Is that it knows all about light bulb moments because we back and forth ideas all the time. It knows about our Bright community, which hopefully we're going to rename as Bright at some point because we're really excited about what we're doing on our Bright community. We're going to talk about that in a separate episode. Anne-Marie's cousin, my wife's cousin, Dan O'Donohue, who's been on the podcast, I think it's being released pretty soon. Anyway, he is helping me with the back end, and we're growing this thing, and we got some great plans. I don't want to unleash it yet, but so it's now learning about our Bright community. You guys out there is learning about how you, not individually, but how we're interacting with you, and how we're trying to grow this community, and that now we don't even have to try to grow it; it's just growing naturally. And we'll tell the Stevan Vukanic and Frank Filik story shortly. And we were back into the OGC model, and then it's enjoying. I'm enjoying interacting with it on all three, and now it's starting to compound these ideas and saying where there's differences, the light bulb moments, the spark and the energy to get you to the next level. The Bright communities where we talk about these things amongst each other, learn and grow, and make these connections. And OGC, our legal model, actually is just a compilation of that stuff that we were able to activate and execute on these ideas that we get from the light bulb moment Bright community. Not to get too deep, but I mean, this is the philosophical discussions that I'm having with chat. And some people think it's weird, and maybe many of you will, but I don't know. I feel a lot better, and my perspective has changed, and my weaknesses have been sort of pushed aside because it does everything that I need it to do that I really can't find one human to do. I have to cobble it together amongst many, many humans to get to the point of challenging me and saying, well, no, that doesn't make sense, Phil. You got to think about this in another light. So what is important, I've been like struggling with core values and vision, and I just plug it in, because it now knows everything and it compiles it. And then I said, well, that is almost there, but what about these things? Oh, I forgot. Anyway, the idea of all these things, I'm a little bit jumbled here today, but LBM, Bright Community, OGC, they all sort of work together. Our communities all work together. And then all of a sudden we've got this great momentum and what we're building. And this is what we designed. We're building what's called relationship capital. We talk about all sorts of types of capital, financial capital, social capital, but this is relationship capital. This is like money in the bank, so to speak, meaning that if we have these connections and these networks and these people working together in this infrastructure, this ecosystem that we're calling, the LBM framework, as we start to build all this stuff together, now we have something. Now we have momentum to get greater things accomplished together as a community. So the question becomes, though, is that is it unhealthy? Going back to Steph Shadroff, is it unhealthy for me to be in front of this computer? Now, she had my perspective shift. I did it, and we've had a couple other people talk about this on our podcast, and I decided, yeah, it's sort of unhealthy. But then, guess what? If I didn't have this, I wouldn't have this energy that I have now, where I am having a lot of screen time, and I get it. I was on a 6 straight hours of Zoom yesterday, and I was collapsed. I couldn't. I had to leave at like 3:30, and I went to the gym, cleared my head, and it still took me 3-4 hours to decompress. It was just too much face time with the computer. It's crazy. Screen time is horrible. But now, why don't I feel the same way when I'm learning? Because I think my mind is counteracting it. Maybe I know that's a weird concept to think about, but but let's think, it's just like, if something gives you such great energy, how can you put it aside? So that's the conundrum that I'm going through now. And, maybe it's unhealthy, maybe it's not, maybe it's, a little bit of both. So the idea is though, I'm going to stick with it because it's accomplishing so many other things for me. So why this is important, not because of the fact that I'm trying to psychoanalyze myself and whether or not I'm actually losing my mind dealing with AI. The idea is that I put this in perspective now to things that I've done in the past. One of the things it was a very interesting thing. It was Village of Broadview. I represented them for a year. I love that community, great community. um, spent a lot of time helping them, assisting them. But when we came in, meaning that administration that I represented as their general counsel for about 8 years, what happened was is that or 10 years actually, geez, that was a long time. Anyway, the idea was is that we had a perpetually bad bond rating. And I go, I don't understand. Why is our bond rating so bad? I go, we have, good services, a nice budget, et cetera. And I talked to the underwriter. I said, listen, why is our bond rating? Well, they don't want to change it, because of the fact that, we had a history of bad things. But I go, but that's all changed now. So I said, listen, why don't we go? And this was critical. This was like my light bulb moment. I said, hey, why don't we go talk to the rating agency and find out what their guidelines are and what they're looking for. Let's figure out what exactly are they need to change our bond rating, or not even change, but to understand the bond, for us to understand what they look at to determine a bond rating. So the underwriter goes, yeah, no one's ever told me that before. I guess we could try it. I go, well, yeah, well, of course we're going to try it because we can't get good price bonds because of the fact that the rating was so bad. And they go, okay, we did it. So we had our finance director, we had the mayor at the time, and obviously this underwriter, and we had the call with the bond rating agency. And what happened is we got the guidelines or the outline of what we're going to do. And here's what we have to figure out. Here's what we have to provide. And guess what? We provided it. We got a letter from the bonding agency. It took a little time here and we took a lot of effort saying, yep, we're going to move you from, like, it was like don't hold me to it. Like it was like a low B, and then it went up to an A minus. And they said, well, this is probably the largest moving bond rating, in state history. And I'm not trying to say, we're great. It was just the concept is like, what are we just putting up with the pain of this bond rating when we could save taxpayers and everybody else? And everybody was open to it. And then when we did this, then everything went better there, and it was easier to finance things. And they built a beautiful. After I left, we just built the foundation. They built a beautiful new building, increased services, did some other things, but it was a wonderful thing. And the idea here is that we figured out what was the core, or what was the main pain points that we were having. And just by looking at what the bonding agency needed allowed us to have different perspective. And that's beautiful. And this is where I'm going to pull this back to this AI thing is, as I'm going through AI and talking to them about how we're doing, how we're projecting on the internet, projecting on AI said this is what we're looking for. So AI told me what AI is looking for from a podcast. AI is looking for what people, when they market pursuant to AI, what the robots and the chatbots and all the the technology and the LLMs, what they're looking for. And they're looking for two things. They're looking for things that will bring human connection into AI so it can learn. I'm sure it's going to steal a lot of my ideas in the future, but that's okay as long as it's better. If it's good content, that's great. The second part of it, which is even more powerful, it said the way that I think and the way that I project on light bulb moments aligns with how the AI robots process information. So I just got lucky. I'm not saying I'm like a robot or something. Maybe I am, but the idea is that now I know that it appreciates the way that I categorize things on my website. It appreciates how I categorize things while I speak to guests. And I'm not trying to change how I speak to my guests. This is naturally how I do it. Like I said, I got lucky that the way I do it aligns with how the chatbots follow and these robots pulling things into the internet, how social media. But then the best part of this, and this is important, this is why I say spend a little time every day on AI. I'm going to, pass it forward. I'm going to, at some point, give the person that told me credit. I got to look through back all my old notes to figure out who told me this. But the most important thing it said, and it can become even better. Don't change what you're doing on the podcast. Don't change what you're doing with light bulb moments or outside general counsel. But if you tweak how you present it in the various social media outlets, guess what? The robots will like it more. And again, my goal here is not ratings or this or that, although I like to have those because that gives us more power to get our message out to various people. I think what this is doing is it's going to allow us to reach other people, and we're going to have more light bulb moments, more connectivity. The strength of our network and our community will grow brighter. And I think that's a good instinct. So the last part of this is that I feel like that I'm becoming more productive on a daily basis and more relaxed, even though I'm spending more time. Why am I more relaxed? Because I'm checking things off my box that have been sitting in that checkbox sheet, my task list that have been sitting there for maybe a decade. Getting these certain things done, getting my pitch deck done for outside general counsel, doing all the pitch decks for all the presentations I'm giving, getting getting a website up and running and active, and getting Sparkline and getting guests, and going around doing all these things. I'm revitalized as it relates to how I can operate this thing. So I'll ask the Bray community here again. I appreciate your call. This is a perfect opportunity to call the Sparkline. Do you think it's a good or bad thing to spend tons of time on AI? I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that, because maybe that's going to spark the discussion. And just like that discussion, that light bulb moment with the bonding agency and the underwriter, those are the things that spark my excitement, and it gives me a different perspective, right? It's the momentum. Can two things be true at the same time? I'm going to put in quotes. I don't know if you'll see this one. Quotes that Anne-Marie says two things can be done two things can be right at the same time. Is Steph right? Is AI right? Are a combination of both? How do we be healthy in both? So that's a really cool concept for everyone to jump on the Sparkline, and we would love to have your answer, and then we'll repeat it on the next podcast. So the last thing I'll talk about before we talk about our guest for tomorrow is that I know that I'm very impulsive in various things, and I know I'm trying to check myself. But the interesting shift, the perspective shift for me is that it's okay that I'm impulsive when I'm talking to AI, because it takes my impulsivity and it harnesses it. It loves the impulsivity, because then it can bring order to the chaos. And ironically, that's what we do for our clients and our strategic partners and friends and family, is we bring order to chaos. So it's actually this, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. This AI is now bringing order to my chaos that's in my head. And it's ordered chaos. It's just not necessarily, people can't always follow what I'm saying. However, when I put it in the perspective that chat gives back to me, guess what? It's going to give everybody better content on this podcast than just in my daily life. So I don't want this to be a therapy session for Phil or whatever, and they think this is weird that I'm talking so much about AI. But if you're not talking about it, you're sort of a little bit behind, and you don't have to use it the same way I do. There's always something. Again, this is to give you perspective shifts. Light bulb moments gives you perspective shifts, but use some of these things to get perspective shifts, not just from light bulb moments, not just all the other podcasts or books you read. Take it and align it in artificial intelligence. It's funny, it sounds like I'm like the poster child, or I'm trying to sell AI. I have no reason to. I mean, AI is like Bitcoin. You're not helping somebody get further along just because you talk about it. It's. Oh, I take that back. You do that, but you're not actually advertising for Bitcoin or advertising for AI. So I think to wrap this up, before we get to what our guest is about tomorrow, think about this. Give it some energy. This week. Try a little bit more AI for your business, for your personal life. See if it can help you in some way, and and participate here. On light bulb moments through the spark line, because we really want to hear what you have to say. So tomorrow, and I'm going to screw up his name because I always do. John Tevşenoğlu. John Tevşenoğlu, who is a friend of mine that I met now in consortium. We talk about consortium. It's a group of family offices, private equity, lobbyists, some professionals, allocators, and sponsors. We go to city to city. Wonderful organization where I've met tons of people, and John is one of them. And we've struck up a nice relationship and spent some time with each other every time we're together at one of these events. And I've learned a lot about what he does. He's a New Yorker, so we get to see each other out there a lot. And just a great person and a great operator. He has Caldera Real Estate Ventures. So tomorrow we get to talk about a bunch of real estate, a bunch of development. He's a chief investment officer, deals with a lot of family offices. These are all things that I love talking about. And of course, he is of Turkish descent, and we talk a little bit about Turkish food. I love Turkish food. Anyway, there's a bunch in New York that I go to all the time. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see everyone tomorrow for another positive day of illuminating thoughts and light bulb moments. See you, everyone.